Hey guys, introducing the Harder Than Life coaching program. If you're ready to transform your business, elevate your fitness, and deepen your personal relationships, including the one with yourself, our Harder Than Life coaching program might just be what you need. This is not a generic one-size-fits-all solution. It's a tailored coaching experience designed to help you achieve your unique goals. We're taking applications now. So if you're serious about making a change, DM me on Instagram at kellysiegel.71, the word coaching, to learn more and apply. Let's grow together, truly become harder than life. I'm Kelly Siegel, and this is Harder Than Life, a podcast about self-love, self-awareness, business, and health. We tell outrageous stories and boil everything down to simple, practical advice you can start using today. Let's get living. Welcome back to the Harder Than Life podcast, where we deep dive into stories that inspire and challenge. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a guest who embodies the spirit of transformation and tenacity, Jimmy Rex, an acclaimed real estate mogul and a vanguard in personal development. Jimmy has not only dominated the business landscape, but also captivated hearts with his compelling insights and humanitarian efforts. Author of the life-changing book, Be One. He empowers individuals to live authentically and maximize their potential. Today, he joins us to explore the profound lessons and strategies from his book and inspire us to lead fulfilling lives. Please welcome Jimmy Rex.
Dude, Kelly, I need you to introduce me every time. I appreciate that.
I got a bunch of questions. This book, I'm going to ask you, let's start off with what inspired you to write this book, Be One, and what do you hope the readers take away from it?
You know, it's interesting because I've had my coaching program now. It's a coaching program designed to help men just become the best version of themselves. And I started coaching with Ed Milet one-on-one a couple of years ago. And he was the one that actually said, hey, man, we have to get your message to the masses. He said, you need to write a book and take everything that you're doing, take the lessons you're teaching these men and get it into a book. He's like, I'll help you. So he actually got me the book deal with his publisher, wrote the foreword for the book, and really helped me design kind of what the format or just the blueprint of what, that needed to be. And so that's the reason the book came about.
I'm going to throw a curveball and just for the cameras, I'm going to show all the pages that I pegged back are the impactful ones that I said. This book was great. I believe this is a self-love book.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. So the book originally, as I started writing it, in fact, because I wanted to get my next book. I had a book come out about 3-4 years ago, and this was going to be my next book. But I originally was writing a book about my journey to self-love. And it was called, It Was Me All Along, What I Learned About Love After 1,000 First Dates. And it was all about my journey to find self-love. And so the book has a lot of that undertone because that's what the book started as.
I always wondered who the they were, and I'm meeting they. Mm-hmm. So I am super proud of you. I know you don't probably get that very often being at your level. And if you read this book, guys, and follow it, you will live a fulfilling life. And I tell you, it's also a love story. So we gotta figure out, are you still single? Because it said in the book.
So I'm in a relationship right now. Yeah.
Congrats. So, I figured if you write this, you put that out in the universe, it's going to come back to you. So there was a specific part. It's funny because my most favorite chapter was the bonus chapter about how you attract. So tell me a little bit if you want. Is that okay? We can have a deep dive?
Yeah. Well, it's so often, and you see more and more people that being single as long as I was too, you learn a lot of things, and I had to unlearn a lot of things as well, and I had just some bad wiring and bad messaging about what I thought. I thought I was going to find that person you don't fight with. I was going to find the person that's your perfect match. I think a lot of people have that idea, right? That you just find the perfect person and that's your love and everything else. And the truth is you become that person, right? You become the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And then you attract in the person that's going to be a good match for that. And so ultimately, when we focus on all the other people or what's out there, and that's why, It Was Me All Along was the title of the book originally of what I was writing, is because you have to discover eventually at some point, you got to go, hey, I'm the problem here. Like, I'm the person that needs to be fixed. I'm the one that needs to kind of look at some things here and change some things so that I can attract in the person I want to spend my life with.
I would add to that, you're the problem, but you're also the solution. So to have I'm in a relationship, and the reason why we're late, I'm going to tease it. It's her. It's 10 o'clock my time, so it's late for me. So I was up and went to the gym and got here. And the whole way over here, I'm thinking about you, and I'm thinking, hey, be one. What am I supposed to do? What is this activating in me? And I'm just breathing through it. And we were communicating, and I'm like, what's the big deal? But I know that your schedule is packed, and I knew you'd have back to back, and I want to have maximized time with you because I think that we're going to be longtime friends. So if you're not following Jimmy Rex, Mr. Jimmy Rex on all socials, get out, order B1. It is a page turner. I read it in about 3 days. I tagged you on it, and I couldn't put it down. Why is being the one so darn hard? Why? I live my life like this, through and through. Everything you do, I'm like, oh, that's, if you read, I brought you a copy of my book, you're going to read the same things.
Love it.
But the world needs us. Why are we the outliners? And why? I mean, I know why we are the they, and why but why is it so hard to follow the principles to be one?
Well, I mean, I think life is a little bit difficult, right? I think we have to be honest about that. It's, life never keeps coming at you. Like, I have guys that have been in my program now for 2.5 years, and they're just now being hit with the hardest thing in their life. And so I think sometimes we default to feeling like, where we get in troubles and we start to think that we deserve to have an easier life. My favorite author of all time is David Dita. He wrote the book, The Way of the Superior Man. And in that book, he actually was one of the guys I hired to coach me a couple of years ago as well, one-on-one. And because when I find somebody that is where I want to be, I can collapse time by being directly involved with that person, right? And so I've done that with Ed, I did that with Dave and other people, Neil Strauss that you mentioned before this call. And so when I was working with Dave, he mentioned this, he said that, as men, the biggest mistake that you can make is wishing that life gets easier, because it's just never going to. And that's the mistake that a lot of people think, is like, one day I'm going to be happy, one day this thing's going to get easier. And it doesn't, because all that happens, in order to be fulfilled, this is Tony Robbins 101, we have to have growth all the time. So no matter what hill you climb or what mountain you get to the top of, God, in his infinite wisdom, made sure that you're going to have a new trial to keep you fulfilled from there, a new thing to chase, a new thing to go after, a new thing to conquer, whatever that might be. And so I think just changing the frame of realizing, and Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time too, is like, hey, life is going to be miserable in a lot of different ways. It's the beauty of this thing is finding the reason to make it worth it. And so as long as you change that mindset of like, hey, this is going to one day be easier, then all of a sudden, all these challenges, so you've learned to take challenges head on as a gift. And I think that's the thing, is you want to change that mindset where you go, I don't want my life to be easier. I want to learn from this. I want to get the new experience. I want to see where the growth comes next. I remember coming into 2020, I'd been on a 5-year heater for from 2015 to 2020, where my life could not have been easier. Like, it really could not have been easier at that point. I was in flow. My real estate business was on cruise control. I was traveling the world. I went to over 100 countries. I was the guy that, literally the NBA team here in Utah, the players would call me to throw a party. Like, they're like, dude, we got to have another party. Come on. Like, you're the guy that can throw this. My life really was that easy. And I had amazing friends, amazing girlfriends, all these different things. But I'd stopped progressing and growing because I was just in this fun phase. And coming into 2020, I said to all my friends, I said, dude, I'm going to have a really hard year. They said, why? And I said, because I'm ready to grow again. And I was not expecting 2020 to be what it was. I was not born for a pandemic world. I got in a car wreck. A guy got drunk on the freeway and parked his car, and the car in front of me swerved at the last second. I hit it going 80 miles an hour. A parked car on the freeway, almost died. I had a girlfriend that, had some very difficult things happen to her right when we started dating, and really caused some issues that we had to work through. And I had an investment that I made in a tech company that in one day I lost over $20 million, and one day I made over $25 million. It was a crazy, crazy year. It was just, I grew more in that 1 year than I had in the previous 5 or 10. And it's because I wanted it. I signed up for it. I told the universe, hey, I'm ready for this again. I want to grow. So I think somebody like you're just willing to step into it. You're willing to take on the challenge. You're willing to step in the arena. And when you put that out, you're not afraid to take risks, and you're not afraid to really just try stuff. And, one of the things that Ed would say to me all the time, he's like, the most successful people simply take action. They don't need to know it's going to work. They don't need to know they're going to get an outcome that they want, and they just do it. And in that, you end up discovering what you like, what you don't, and you end up finding your purpose. And then when you have purpose, everything becomes passion. If you don't have purpose behind it, if you're not good at what you're doing, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, it all feels like stress. But if you love it, it just feels like passion. And so you're driven to do it because it's fun.
So love the difficulty. I'm in the middle of it right now, man. I own an IT company that's tremendously successful. We're redoing everything there. And then I decided at the same time launch, Harder Than Life brand. And it's like everything is difficult right now. You wouldn't know it. And I got to keep reminding myself, because all I ever know is be harder than life. Run right into it. And actually, that's what I've always done. That's what got me here. It's not going to get me there. Mm-hmm. It's surrendering and allowing and being. And it's the hardest thing, Jimmy. Got any advice for me?
Well, no. And so last year, my thing is you're probably like me. I don't need anyone to ever motivate me. Like, I'm just a motivated human. Like, I need help slowing down, right? My problem is doing less, slowing down. So I was working with a brilliant man last year, Stefanos Stefandos. He's a relationship coach.
He's been on the podcast.
Yeah,
great guy.
So I love
him.
Yep. So I hired him again to be my one-on-one coach. I said, Stefanos, I think you're the best in the world at this. I got some shit I want to figure out. And he, one meeting with him, and he told me, he said, Jimmy, he said, the answers we seek are in silence and solace. So you've got to slow down.
Here's a third one: silence, solace, and what was it? Solitude.
Solitude, sure, yeah. It's so he would make me go into the woods. Thankfully here in Utah we have beautiful nature within 10-minute drive everywhere, and I would just sit, no phone, no stimulus, nobody else with me, and just sit for an hour or two every single week, a couple times a week, and just let life be. And in that, there was a lot of slowing down that I've been able to do, and just to allow things and surrender to what things are. And, I think when I get in trouble, when any human gets in trouble, is when we have this expectation of what something's supposed to be. It's the second we need something to be a certain way and it's not, we feel pain around that thing, right? And usually it's not even our own expectation. So the very act of surrender, we hear it all the time. You hear it a lot in the, the community, but the very act of doing that is just going, you know what? I accept everything as it is. And here's the key that my buddy told me. If you really want to be happy, then the second part of it is, and don't wish it was any different.
Mm. You're kicking me in the butt right now.
That'll change everything.
That's how it feels. I got to tell you, I'm loving the energy, and man, you're the real deal, and I really appreciate it. Stefanos is probably the reason why you got in a relationship. That boy is handsome. We did a role play, and to go back to give an idea how I got first introduced to Neil Strauss is I read his book, The Game, because my friends are like, man, you literally could have written this book. Because back in the day when I was partying, pre-Harder Than Life days, I was like you. It's just, I'm on my boat, I'm ripping, I had women everywhere. I used to say I was a drunken whore, so all I ever attracted was drunken whores. And, it's a little harsh, but it's true. And being able to say that pretty easily without is how I healed. But that game, that was something else. So those two guys, you really freaking leveled up. And
the reason I seeked out Neil is because he came out 10 years later with the book, The Truth, and basically called bullshit on the whole thing. Like, this lifestyle was really not the way to do things. Essentially, Neil's very much let it be what it is. But, and so the reason I hired Neil is because he was where I was and he had gotten to where I wanted to be. And so that's the person that, and Stefanos kind of the same thing.
Be a student of the game is where I was going with that. It's so weird. I just had an epiphany that I read The Truth when I was here in Utah on a ski trip in 2016. Oh, wow. I adore Neil. I follow him. He's a brilliant man. I wrote something in here about, you wrote in the book that you've left the church, but you still believe in God, right?
Yeah.
So all these things happening during your difficult times, do you believe that there's signs from God pointing you in the right direction?
Yeah, the one thing that I knew, and this was kind of just a gift that I had, is I'd had some experiences where I knew that God knew me. I don't know how else to say that, like really knew me, like understood me, like found humor in who I was as a human being. And so when I would do things, if I screwed it up, I think I gave myself a lot of grace because I think God was just kind of laughing, like, you're not going to believe what this Jimmy guy did today.
How do you give yourself grace? Because if I told you the things that I say, like, it's the only thing that I really have left. I'm hard on myself, man.
Yeah, and most people are. And you have to just understand it just doesn't serve you. Like, what does it help to be that hard on yourself? Like, obviously you want to learn lessons so you don't repeat them, but ultimately let that shit go. It's really that simple. It's like, who are you serving by hanging on to that, or by punishing yourself? I always tell my guys, I say, there's no honor in self-sacrifice. To beat yourself up for no reason, it's not honorable. There's no good in that. There's no reason to do that.
Anytime you send me a text, remind me because I need it. You briefly talked about motivation and action. So how do you lead these We Are the They men when not everybody wakes up and hits the ground and knows. That's what I'm hearing out of you. I hear you say, I wake up and it's time to go. That's how I am. She sees it. I wake up. Dude, hell is coming and I'm coming with it. And how do you motivate people that aren't as naturally motivated as you and I seem to be?
Sure. I mean, you don't motivate somebody by telling them what to do. You don't motivate them even by showing them what to do. You motivate people. I think there's two things. Like, number one is they've just got to have a bigger reason. Like, so it's helping them understand the reason why. I mean, we hear it all the time. Find your why, what's your reason? But Tony Robbins, he has the perfect formula for getting shit done. Like, literally, it's the perfect formula. A, you get very clear on what you want to do. B, you figure out why you want to do it, and you attach all the emotion of it to that why. Once you've got enough emotion behind it, so you ask yourself better questions, right? Like, who suffers if I don't do it? Who benefits if I do it? And you really internalize how you can change the lives of people you care about. And all of a sudden that why has a lot of emotion behind it. Then you just come up with a massive action plan. You literally map it out, start with the end in mind, and you build it backwards. And then you just work the plan. And you're willing to work the plan because that why is your driver and you're so motivated to do it. It's really that simple. The second thing that I'll say is if somebody has behaviors they need to change, the mistake that a lot of people make is thinking, especially coaches, is that I can change this person, and you can't. The only thing you can do is create a container that's safe enough for them to be inspired to change themselves. And so I'm obsessed with the container. I'm obsessed with creating spaces where men will want to come first. So that's why my program's so fun. We jump off cliffs and swim with sharks and go do crazy shit all the time. Right? I took 70 guys to run with the bulls in Spain. If I can create a container that's fun enough, then you'll want to be there. Once you're there, we can then use, all these different skills and storytelling and the different things to inspire you to then have your own inspiration of how you need to change. And then in that, when you are the one that says, oh, it's time for me to do something different, you're going to want to do the change. And that's when lasting change happens.
Man, you're a beautiful human being. I'm sitting over here and all loving this, taking notes. Like, this is fantastic. If you're not following Jimmy, Mr. Jimmy Rex, get this book. This guy's the real deal, folks. I'm enjoying every minute of this. I haven't even asked any of the freaking questions. We got to get back to the book. So you're a student of the game like I am. We've read Ed Milet's book and all of the personal development books out there. So how does B1 differ from all the other self-help books in today's market?
I think there's truths that when you hear them, you just know they're true, right? And so when you hear David Goggins speak or Jocko Willink or whoever it is, just any of these guys, like, you just hear them say things, you go, yeah, I know that to be true. Like, your soul just kind of knows. And so I think each person is able to just tell a message in a way that whoever their audience is can respond to that message. So I'll give you an example in my book. In fact, Friday night, I was at a little, kind of like a house party, but it wasn't like a party. It was just a bunch of people hanging out. And me, and this girl I'm dating, we're sitting outside on the lawn on a blanket and just kind of talking. And this kid kind of starts walking, he's about 25, starts walking towards us. He says, hey, can I sit with you guys for a minute? I said, yeah, no problem, man. And he sits down and he says, I got a question for you that I want to ask you, Jim. I've been following you for a long time. I listened to your podcast. And he said, because I didn't know him before this night. And he said, how do you help a friend that's suicidal? And when he asked me that question, so my favorite part in the book starts on page 16. I have a friend that was suicidal, and I asked him how you help that person. And I had him explain what it is to be in that state. And he's a beautiful orator of words. And so the way he explained it, I put it word for word in the book. It's about 4 pages of the book. I said, dude, I actually have a book in my car. I could explain this to you, but let me actually read you exactly what this is. And so I got up, I went and got the book. And while I was gone, he told this girl I'm dating, he said, hey, don't tell Jimmy. I don't want him to think less of me, but it's me that's, and I kind of knew anyway. So I go get the book and I read this part and kind of explain this. And he sent me a message the next day on Instagram of, it literally was life-changing for him just to hear. He's like, yes, it's like, you get me. You understand what this is. Like, you understand what somebody's going through this. And so, like, for example, whatever reason God used me to help that man, and the fact that he just happens to listen to my stuff and I happen to have the exact answer he needed. And so I don't think there's accidents on that stuff. I think that we're all guides to different people. And my book's not for everyone. I'm not for everyone. Even calling the book, the subtitle is How to Be a Healthy Man in Toxic Times. The publisher fought me for 3 months to change that to How to Be a Healthy Human. And I said, look, this is for men. This is like, women want to read this book too, because it's going to help their man and understand him and all these things. But this is how to help a man live a healthy life in these crazy times that we're in. And so I fought for that title. I said, I'm willing to walk off this deal for this title. Like, this is really important to me. And so I think ultimately what's in my book, it's my path. I'm very vulnerable. I talk a lot through my own experiences. I talk a lot about friendship. I think the one thing that is my superpower is, I always put my friends first. I always put friends ahead of everything else, including my romantic relationships up till recently. And so I did learn how to become a best friend to a lot of people. And I would argue, I don't know anybody I've ever met that has as many deep, close friends as I do. I have as many best friends, amazing humans that a guy could ever hope for. And so when I started going into coaching in the first place, or my program, it was funny because I felt like an imposter, Kelly. I'm like, well, who am I to tell people how to live? Like, how am I going to be a coach? Like, I don't know what to do. I'm a real estate guy. But the one thing that people kept asking me is, Jimmy, how do I find a group of friends like you have? It's just over and over on Instagram. There's constantly people asking me. And so I knew.
Be one.
Well, yes, exactly. Yeah. Whatever you want, be more of, right? But I knew that, like, oh, this is going to be a men's group. I need to teach men how to connect and how to form real friendships. So we go last night to this event that, just happened to be at my headquarters. There's 200 people there. They all met through this program. And like, every single one of them has become best friends. That is the thing that I think I do best. And so like, I think what I can help a lot of guys do, being single as long as I was, I think I went through a lot. I think I experienced a lot. I think I have a lot of firsthand knowledge. And so I do understand men on the deepest levels, and I understand how to form community. I understand how to form friendship. And so in my book, I think a lot of the things that you get out of that is just from my own personal experience, and then from all the coaches that I've had, right? I mean, I've really invested, I've invested almost $2 million in coaches, masterminds, books, all this stuff, And so I think that I just have a wide range of variety of opinions that I'm able to take and now put into the book.
It shows, man. And again, I'm proud of you. And I got to tell you, unfortunately for you, and I'm sorry, not sorry, that you've got a new friend. I'll call her Big Brother.
I appreciate it.
I have your cell phone number, and I haven't texted you yet because I wanted to meet you first and make sure that we break bread together. How many people are in this? We Are the Way. We are the They. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. There's about 400 total right now. With all the groups and everything else. So every couple of months I open a new pod of 50 guys. And so we just opened our last one, or our newest one. In fact, filled it up yesterday. So I do 50 people per group because I've been a part of all these other masterminds. And when you get over that, it's really hard to keep a certain culture. It's really hard to go deep with the friendships. So I'm not going for, width, I'm going for depth. And so that's why I open a new class or new group every couple of months, every 6 months or so with that.
Couple more questions about the book. What's the single most important habit you believe someone should develop after reading your book?
Gratitude. Just getting into gratitude every day.
That's simple. It's literally that simple.
But you do. So here's the thing though, is you do have to actually have an exercise around it, because the brain is designed to keep us alive. Unfortunately, it's not designed to make us happy. It's designed for one thing, is to make sure we don't die. And even so, I used to work at the Center for Women and Children in Crisis here in Utah, and it was battered women. And my job was to play with the kids and make them see a masculine figure that could be safe. And so I worked there for, a couple months. And I'll be honest, like every single woman that came in there ended up going back to that guy. And the reason why is because our nervous systems will go where they know they can survive. It doesn't mean they're safe. It means they can survive. It doesn't mean they're happy. It means they can survive. They're like, I know I can survive this horrible relationship. I don't know what's on the other side of that if I go outside of it. And so unfortunately, most people will always go back to what their nervous system feels safe in. And so what you have to do is you have to create, you have to almost like hijack your own brain, and you can do that with gratitude. So anytime your brain is designed to look for what's going wrong. It just is. What's wrong so that I can avoid danger, so I can avoid the pitfall, so that I can stay alive, right? And back when we were being chased by lions and bears and things living in caves, that made a lot of sense. Today, the world is pretty damn safe. Like this world is pretty easy to live in. It's a very comfortable world. And so unfortunately, people's brains are still trying to find what's wrong. That's why you see people, it doesn't matter what cause you give, you see these hardcore leftists, for example. It's just, I'm not getting political. I don't have a political home. I consider myself homeless politically. But the point is like, you see them though, and they have this cause and they'll throw everything at it. And then they get it. They immediately start fighting for something else until it becomes ridiculous. They start fighting for things they should not be fighting for. All of a sudden, it's like, no, like men should play in women's sports. And like the only thing they're doing is they're trying to find some kind of misjustice because their brain is hardwired to look for these problems instead of looking for things that'll make them happy. And so you can do that your whole life and just be pissed about the world, or you can look for what's going right. And so you do have to hijack it. So every morning, every one of the guys in my program, I do this. I have a couple of guys that I text every single morning, and we text each other things that we're grateful for. And we do that so that we're hardwiring our brain to look for what's going right. So all day long, if you know you're going to be coming up with gratitudes, you're looking for what's going right. You're looking for the gifts of it. When I have guys go through a really hard thing in my program, I call them and I ask them one question. I said, all right, let's talk about this. Where's the gift? And they have to come up with it, right? I remember one time I had a friend betray me several years ago, and my life coach, she's brilliant. And I'm on the phone and I'm just raging. I'm so mad, And she goes, all right, Jimmy, we're not getting off the phone until you come up with 20 gifts in this. I said, 20 gifts in this? I go, you're insane. There's no 20 gifts in this. I said, I can't think of one. By the time I got off the phone, we came up with 27, right? Because when you start to look for whatever you focus on, you feel. Whatever you look for, you're going to find. I'm convinced of this 100%. If you want to look for everything going wrong in this world, you're going to find it real quick. But if you want to look for what's going right, you also can find that pretty damn quick. And so
what you're saying is the mind takes you, it wants to control the uncontrollable. So it's the familiar misery that we chase. It's, I'm used to this, so let's chase that. And then your boy, Chris Williamson, who you were talking about before we started, he sent out this beautiful reel that was, you said you'd be happy when you had the things you have now. Mm-hmm. And I bet you're a lot like that too, where we move those goalposts. I just wanted to have a best-selling book. Got it. Wanted to be ranked in the pot. Got it. And all of a sudden it just keeps moving. So I'm going to work with you to be more present and just relax and just allow be.
Yeah. I mean, that's Tony Robbins, again, he most famously said this, but he said, look, there's two things. There's the science of achievement. That's pretty easy. If you want to write a book, there's a formula to do it. If you want to write a best-selling book, there's a formula to do it. You figure out what to do, you get really good at doing it, and then you freaking do it. Like, that's really how you achieve anything, basically, right? That is the science of achievement. That's easier. Harder is the art of fulfillment. And the art of fulfillment is knowing I am exactly where I need to be right now. I am enough exactly as I am and capable of much more, right? It's being satisfied with where you're at, but still being driven to do more things. And that is the dance of life. And to be honest, we all suck at it. Like, that is the hardest thing, is just being able to be happy with the present moment, but not wishing it was different, and not looking too far ahead or behind. You go to the past to learn, but you don't want to live there. You go to the future so you can have a vision, but you got to stay present in the moment.
I got to tell you, I'm grateful for you and what you're doing in We Are the They, as well as allowing me to come hijack your studio and bring this to the Heart of Life listeners. So I'm very present and listening to everything you say. So thank you. Back to the book. Which chapter of B1 was the most challenging to write, and why?
The one about health was the hardest one for me, I think. I'm in a very good place right now, but it's taken me a long time to get here. I grew up where in college, literally was, I thought granola bars and mac and cheese was healthy. Like, that was health food to me. You know what I mean? It was like, actually, it wasn't candy. And so I just didn't know. I mean, nowadays, it's interesting. We don't have a knowledge problem. People know how to be healthy now. They know how to eat healthy, know how to do it, but it's doing it. It's the art of doing it. And so, like, there's just these challenges we all have. It took me until, I used to drink 2 or 3 rock stars a day, and then I changed it to Celsius, and I'm now 8 weeks, I think, without a single Celsius. I now I'm at Coke Zero, and eventually I'll get off caffeine. But like, there's so many things. There's like this, but there's this beauty in the dance of the health. But like, if you have your health, you have a million other problems. But the second you don't, I mean, if you ever had a backache or a toothache, like, nothing else matters. Like, that's it. Like, that's your only problem. And so I think there's just this, for me, the health journey, and like, even last summer, I got in the best shape of my entire life. I finally got down to the exact body percent fat I wanted to be. I was shredded up, and then I had to get 2 surgeries within a 6-month period. I just threw everything off. And it's taken me till about 3-4 weeks ago before I finally started feeling really good about my health again. And so it's just this dance that we're playing, and it's been a difficult one for me to master. But more and more I get my focus on it, and it's a fun one for me because it's the one that's the most challenging.
Yeah, you saw that I told you before this. My favorite that I thought you were going to say was this bonus chapter 1, find one, which is exactly what I bet you executed. And the first quote was, "The flower doesn't dream of the bee, it blossoms and the bee comes." If you look at this, I got so many pages in just this chapter pegged back. I don't know why, but if you don't read this book, figure out a way to go to ChatGPT or whatever and it's the first bonus chapter called Find One, From Skeptical to Trusting. And this thing resonated with me. I literally read it and then reread it. It's the only chapter I reread. This book is gold, guys. Get out and watch it. Now, there's a few of these questions are going to be in the book, so don't go too deep because we won't want to give away the entire book because it literally is a page turner. So could you walk us through the journey from starting in real estate to becoming a motivational figure? Sure. It's in here, but I want to tease the listeners a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I never intended to be doing what I'm doing now. It wasn't even on my radar. I was a real estate guy and I sold thousands and thousands of homes. I ended up becoming, the number one agent in the state of Utah. About 5 years ago, I sold the most expensive home ever in Utah. And it was interesting because I kind of to be honest, it didn't really do much for me. I mean, I already was having a great year and making a ton of money. And I just knew I had this epiphany. I was doing a meditation and I just knew I needed to do something more impactful. And I didn't know what that was going to be. I had always, my whole identity had been a real estate guy. And, it's funny because I was literally, you spend your whole life to get where I was at, and it was on cruise control. And so it was like at that peak though, I just knew and I couldn't deny it. I remember I was hanging out with some friends and, we had a coach there with us and I told everyone, I said, guys, I think I need to get out of real estate. And even the person facilitating the event was like, hey, maybe sit on that for a little bit, And so I actually just started playing with the idea. And I just asked that question, well, what would I do that would be more impactful? What could I do that would be a bigger difference maker? And I think not having kids, you worry a little bit more about your legacy because it's like, well, what am I going to leave behind? And so at the time, still single, no kids. And I'm thinking to myself, one of the reasons I wanted to do a podcast was I heard Tony Robbins 8 years ago tell an event, if you have 400 hours of you talking and answering questions and saying with your real answers, he said, there'll be an AI within 8 years that can, with 98% accuracy, answer questions the way you would. I don't know if you saw the thing that Reid Hoffman put out recently, but his AI literally answers as if it's him and pretty much identical what Tony was saying. It just takes all of his information and then answers as him. And so that was kind of a legacy thing at the time. Now I'm scared of it. But at the time I was like, well, that could be kind of cool. If I die, I'm kind of a risk taker. I could be dead anytime, And so anyway, so I was kind of like, well, that'd be kind of fun. But then also I just kind of this idea of okay, what do you want to leave behind? And so I was just thinking how could I use my skills the best? I've had so many opportunities. I've had so many cool coaches. I've had so many cool people I get to be around. What could I do to leave more of an impact or to be more impactful? And at that same time, there was a real estate agent that actually got shot and killed collecting some rents. And me and him had very similar careers in the sense of how we did our business. And I remember the news, every story on the news was just realtor dies, realtor gets shot, and it was just, that was his legacy. He was a realtor. And I'm like, God, I love being a realtor, but if that's all I'm known as, is I'd be a little bit sad about that, And so I just was playing with this idea. And originally my idea was to, go do all these crazy adventures with these influencers and make a documentary about it with everybody's backstories. But then, I was doing a meditation with my friend Bea, and she was dating Tim Ferriss at the time. And the whole reason I essentially had her do this with me, because I wanted to put it on radar so Tim would be a part of this program that I was going to put together. And she asked me the most beautiful question because she kind of knew where I was going with it. And she just goes, Jimmy, Tim doesn't need this. His friends don't need this. They are busy doing so many things. Who needs this? And that was when it hit me clear as day. I was like, oh my gosh, it's these men. It's these men that reach out to me all the time. And they say, I'm stuck in life. They say, where do I find a group of friends like you do? So I just went for it. I just said, okay, I know how to do this. I know how to help men connect. And I just literally started gathering all my different information from all the different things I've gone to. And I put together this course. I put together my first mastermind. And it just went from there. And so when I launched the program, it was interesting. For my 40th birthday, I always wanted to have an epic 40th birthday. So I spent over $50K on my 40th birthday. I mean, I sent it. I mean, I had 35 of my best friends there. We rented this fun bus and we went to Moab and we did this rope swing for the first time. I hired the guy to do it and just the most epic weekend. And it was kind of a precursor of what my program was going to be. And from that, I took all the footage and we launched my program about a month later, which became We Are the They. And And so when I first launched it, I was hoping to get 50 guys. And that first group, I put all the marketing out, and within 8 hours, I had 147 people applied. And I knew, oh, men need this more than I knew. Like, men really need this right now. And so that was the easy launch of We Are the They.
What's it cost?
So it's $1,500 a month, and that includes 4 masterminds a year, a weekly call, the modules, online learning stuff, and then 2 annual events a year. So like my speaking event, I bring in a bunch of speakers. I had Chris Williamson, Ed Milet, Erwin McManus this year, David Vabora, some of the top speakers. And then the second event is in the summer. Last year, we hosted our own rodeo. We rode a bull. I got to go. I lasted exactly 2.7 seconds, just like the Tim McGraw song. This year, we're doing a demolition derby.
Was the bull named Fu Manchu?
No, unfortunately, but so this year we're doing a demolition derby, and we have, like a big speaker event with the actual members of the community. We do like we call it a We Are the They Olympics. We have all the different groups against each other for all these sporting events. And then we just have a good time. We're doing a charity golf tournament. One of our guys got cancer this year, so we're raising some money for him. And but so you have about 8 events a year, big events a year, and then all these masterminds, and all included with that.
As $1,500 a month is the best money you'll ever spend in your life. You'll probably do business with everybody in the freaking group. So let's dig into that a little more, because I said it about off camera, I always wonder who the they was when they say they are so smart or they know everything. They say, we are the they, and I love it. And you are walking the talk, brother, and I can feel it. I feel the energy. I see you getting all smiley and happy when I bring it up. So can you share a success story from one of the members of the mastermind?
Sure. He's sitting right there as one of them. So he joined at the beginning of the program. Actually, he actually hit me up at the gym right as I was launching the program. And he said, hey, I've been following you. And as Dakota, he's my podcast producer, he said, I want to work for you. He said, it was really cool. He did exactly what I would teach someone to do. He said, hey, I've saved up enough money. I can work for you for free for 60 or 90 days or whatever it is. At the end of that, he goes, at the end of that, you're either going to have to hire me or I got to quit, though, because I'll be out of money. And so I said, okay. I didn't really have things to do. But I started giving him some, bullshit assignments, and he was just nailing them. And so then I said, hey, build me out this podcast studio, and you can be my podcast director. And he said to me, hey, part of this is I want to be part of your group that We Are the They. So I said, sounds good. You can be a member that kind of works the events for me, helps me with all the sound and the audio and all that stuff. So he joins the group, and 6 months in, and permission to tell your story, Dakota, but he kind of struggled in the dating scene and some of that stuff. And we had this event. We went to the Bahamas, and we swam with tiger sharks and stuff like that. But one of the nights we had this circle around a fire, and we said, all right, what do you want to change in your life in the next 6 months? I had every guy go around and say, what do you want to change in the next 6 months? And he said, I really want to get serious about dating and find somebody. And it was funny because the next day we were having dinner at like the resort, and these 2 beautiful girls sit down, and I go, all right, Dakota, you're up, buddy, go talk to him. And he looked at me and he's like, no, it's not a good time. And I go, oh, it's a good time. And basically forced him to go sit over there.
That smile over there, first of all. Love it.
But it started this thing where he said, I'm going to be so intentional about finding my person and dating. And so he went out every week. He was going on dates. And eventually one of the members of the group, who's my best friend since I was 12, he's a member of group 2. And he said, hey, Dakota, I got this person. I want you to meet this perfect girl for you. And sets him up. And long story short, they start dating. They're getting married in September. And he met her through the program, through one of the guys. He got intentional because of the program, but he did all the work and he did all that. So, and I have 200 stories I could tell you. That's just one right here, but they make me emotional because, it's like, the ripple effect of the one decision I made to just launch this program, the friendships that have been made, the success stories. One of the guys that was there last night, the guy hosting it, he was helping him and emceeing, and he'd never had a close friend in his life. And he had his birthday party a couple months back, and a bunch of the guys flew down to be with him with their wives and stuff and just hang out. And he sent me a text after, and he says, dude, I've never had friends that actually cared about me. He said, these people want, they want nothing from me. They just love me because they do. And he's like, this has changed my whole life. Thank you so much. And I get those texts literally every day. I get them every single day from my guys. And so
you guys can't see it on the cameras, but he's getting teary-eyed, bro. I got to fist bump that. I'm proud of you. Brother, by the way, he provided the platform, but you ran with it. So Dakota, kudos to you. That's what we need more of in this world. You can be the one, but you got to do. And you freaking did, man. And I'm proud of you. I'm sending you. That's a great.
He literally,
freaking
and that's
story.
the whole thing. It's like this program doesn't work if you don't do the work, right? Like I said, I can't change anybody. I can create space for you to be inspired, and that's what he did. He took and did all the work, but it does work. The program works 100% if you're willing to do the actual.
It sounds like you've built a big ass fraternity. That sounds fun.
It's the world's greatest. It's funny because it's like I have frat guys in the group and they said, this is what I always wish my frat was. But then I have guys that are strong members of like their church. And they're like, damn, this is what we wish our church membership group was, you know? It's like a mix of the two. Like
I was in a fraternity and it sounds like we used to do epic things together. And it's amazing when you can get 50 to 100 or just any men on the same purpose and same passion, as you said. We did philanthropic events and in our fraternity, and it just everybody rowing in the same direction is powerful. Yeah. So, man, I can't wait to see where this thing goes. Who is your biggest influence or mentor in your life or career so far?
I've been very blessed with a lot of amazing coaches. I really have. I've been obsessed with coaches from day one. But my original real estate coach, Mike Ferry, I've happened to stumble upon the GOAT of real estate coaches. My mission president when I was a Mormon missionary he just taught me how to work, man. He was just no bullshit Army dude. And and then I've hired all these other coaches that we've mentioned some of them along the way, but I've had a couple of the unsung hero coaches. You would never know their names. They're very private, but this lady, Kathy from Canada, she's 70 years old. She's one of my life coaches. Melissa, this 6-year-old lady from Colorado. She's been my coach for 7 years. Even just this week, she gave me some beautiful advice. Both of them do, like all the time. And so I got my call today at noon with Kathy, and I did my call last night with Neil, and I still have my coaches and mentors that I lean on very heavily. But I've had a lot of friends too. I really have, it's interesting. I had a vision doing a meditation about 6 months ago, and it was like a chessboard. Because as a 42-year-old guy that's never been married, it's very difficult for a guy, if he doesn't have a queen to help him, to support him, to keep his shit going, right? It's very difficult. And I saw this vision of this chessboard, and I saw every one of the pieces was somebody in my life that represented me, and they all had to be there to keep the king from falling, kind of thing, right? On my chessboard. And so it was like, I've had so many friends I could mention, or people I've even mentored and tutored that helped me and all these things. So it's just a collection of a lot of amazing people that have helped me along the way.
Well, again, you've got the best friend in me, but be careful because I come correct. And I got to tell you, everything in the book, the reason why it resonated with me is because I did all that work. I did every single thing that you do, and I still do it. Yeah. And I was here for an event with right down the road with Sean Whalen, and I met her. And you're right. Once you get your queen who is there to help you, it silences a lot of issues. And now we're taking the next step. And I'm sitting here interviewing Jimmy Rex, and I do want to point out too that you're a big influence. You're a big deal, and you're taking in all these coaches. You're still a student of the game. You don't just achieve and then stop. I always tease, I've been working out for 30 years. And I say, man, I should get a pension and I shouldn't have to go work out like I do every single day. But that's just not the way the world works. We got to keep grinding.
You got to.
So, hey, just because you got married, you keep going. You keep freaking working on it. How do you manage to balance your professional ambitions with your personal life then?
That's the hardest thing for me, for sure. One of the things that I did recently is I had to do an inventory of my life and go, because, when I was, before I started dating this girl that I'm right now, I didn't have space for her. I didn't have space for somebody. I was doing too many things. And so I broke off a lot of things I was doing that weren't necessarily my main purpose or vision, and I got rid of them. And so it's doing that constant inventory and saying, wait, what do I have to get rid of? What do I need to eliminate? Because you can't do it. I mean, as somebody like you, or, like myself, I always think like I can do anything, but you can't do everything. And so you really got to decide. And a woman knows me, you don't have space for her in your life. And so for me, it was like, okay, if this is the most important thing I want to do now, what has to go? And there always is sacrifices. And I think it's important to even know that, there's sacrifices. Like there's things that you would want to do that you can't do. And so I think that balance is just ultimately, you mentioned Sean just a second ago, he's a close friend of mine, and he always asks this one question to everybody he coaches. He says, what do you want? It's a brilliant question, because when you really dig into it, and people give like a random ass answer, no, what do you want? And I ask myself that strict question often. And I'm like, wait, do I want to be doing this? And if the answer is no, I'm like, then I'm not doing it. And I'll cancel things that like I was already down the road. You know, I'm a really good poker player because when you're playing poker, where people get in trouble is they get a pair of queens in their hand and they love it. So they put a lot in pre-flop, right? And then all of a sudden the flop comes down, king 10-6. Your hand's probably busted. If you got 8 players at the table, there's a good chance someone's got a king. You're probably going to get beat. But where people get in trouble in poker is they love those queens and they can't put them down, or jacks or whatever, right? I always say people always go home playing jacks because they can't lay them down. And so in life, you can be halfway through a book and go, you know what? It's not the book I was supposed to read or write even, or whatever it might be. You can, you know, be into your career and be 6 years in and go, wait, this isn't fulfilling me. And that willingness to drop the hand keeps you in the game so that you can build back up and then win the game. And so I think having a willingness to drop a good hand is one of the keys to finding that balance.
We've heard from, you have it in your book to be one that you got to say no more. You just have to. You have to protect your peace at all costs.
Well, and when you're coming up, everything can be a yes because everybody's a potential opportunity, potential client, whatever it might be. But after you've made it, yeah, every time you say yes to something, I'm saying no to everything else, right? Like it matters. Like my time is limited. And so if I say yes to a speaking gig, I'm saying no to hang out with my family. I'm saying no to the gym. I'm saying no to building my business. I'm saying no to coaching my men. And so I have to balance all that. And it actually becomes easier when you can look at it from that lens, because it's not that I'm saying no to this opportunity that somebody asked me to do. It's I'm saying no to all my other people if I do it. And so.
Well, I'm glad you said yes to this podcast because I'm enjoying every minute of this, man. You're just a treat. What's something you enjoy doing that your fans might not expect?
Spending time by myself. Like I'm a very social guy, but I love spending time by myself. Well, they kind of know that. If people that know me well know that, but people that don't, they just see me being very social. But I spend a lot of time just with me. I like to read. I like to take baths. I like to travel by myself. I love to actually I don't like flying private because I like the time of going to the airport and just putting my earbuds in and just listening to a podcast, listening to a book, talking to friends. But just that time where I just get to be me. And so I actually really enjoy time by myself.
Has it always been that way?
No, that took a lot of time. Yeah, I used to get FOMO. I mean, for 15 years, I would find something to do every night. I grew up in a very chaotic household. My nervous system was not comfortable just sitting and being. And it actually took me almost 2 years to be able to meditate for 20 minutes. I tried every day almost. And I'd get 7 minutes in, 3 minutes in. I couldn't do it. Now I meditate for over 20 minutes almost every single day where I don't move.
It's like I'm looking into a mirror. I'm the same way. It's everything you say. I like JOMO now, the joy of missing out. I used to have to be there even if I hated it. Now it's like, you know what, man? I just went to Florida because I have a house in Florida, Detroit, and then I'm here for her and you guys. So I'm always in an airport. And I'm like, I just need a weekend to myself. And it's you got to recharge. I used to always think, and I did for years, always had another gear. I just looked at her last week and said, I realized I don't have another gear anymore. I'm giving it all I got. And it's just going to have to be good enough.
Yeah, and I've burned myself out several times, and I'm at least good at recognizing it. I just work too hard. I just work too much.
What did you do to get on? Because I'm in the middle of it right now. We're seeing that number one spot, and we're just grinding.
Well, going back to that chessboard thing, I had good friends pull me aside, but hey, man, you don't seem like you're as happy, or like you feel stressed, like you feel like you're carrying a lot. And I was like, and first you want to get mad or like, I'm fine, like don't tell me I have problems or whatever. And then you're like, shit, am I? Like, yeah, I probably am. So then you're like, okay, why? And then you go, okay, well, this is stressing me out. This is stressing me out. Then I go, okay, well, I'm going to quit doing that. And I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm not going to do that. And then I'm like, okay, well, what else am I doing? Well, I'm not taking care of myself this way. And so honestly, you start taking care of yourself better. You just get back to the basic things that create happiness. Like, most people that are suffering from depression, I mean, there's, a percentage that definitely have a clinical issue, a chemical issue, but like the majority just aren't doing the things that make you happy. And so when you're feeling off, like for me, it's like if I, a couple months ago, I was just having a drink a day or a drink a night, and it was like I wasn't as happy. And so I stopped drinking, and I'll be damned, I started feeling better. Started, like those little things.
That's a cheat code, bro.
If you don't go to the gym for a week, like you're not going to feel as good. Like I have to get to the gym every day. And so that's just part of my routine. I go on morning walks every single morning. I wake up, and one of the guys that I coach meets me at my door, and we start a walk together. I start every day with that at 7 a.m. And so like when I'm not doing those, I'm not as happy. So I have to get back to all those things.
I hope everybody's thinking, I'm going to have to tell anybody to freaking share this episode. This is fire, man. You're lighting the place on fire. I'm glad it's your studio, not mine. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, it's funny because I think we have to be careful with this because I love where I'm at today. So I honor the whole path that got me here. So I honor my time when I was a member of the church I left, right? I obviously had problems. I left, but I honor the time that I was there because it helped make me today. I honor the time that I was in my shit. I honor the time that I did things that I didn't know what I was doing. So the only advice I would give myself is don't sell any of your real estate because that's such a simple one, but it's so true. I own 58 doors and I beat myself up because I could have bought another 200. I could have, I could have a 9-figure net worth if I just did what I knew I needed to do and didn't sell real estate and bought more of it. And I was so busy with making commissions, and then I would sell a property because I could make a quick 30K, but it was already cash flowing me $1,000 a month or $300 a month or whatever. And that would be the one thing as a real estate guy, I would have kept every house. But I have listened to that advice the last 4 years. I haven't sold anything in 4 or 5 years.
Do you wish you would have started the We Are the They sooner or the personal development?
Ready. No, I wasn't ready. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have. I wasn't the right person to do it yet.
You alluded to the drinking. I quit drinking 5.5 years ago, and I wish I would have started sooner. That's the only regret. I knew at 30 I needed to get this thing in alignment, and I waited till 43. I wish because I could have helped so many more people. It's cheat code, man. You
Tricky
just said
one, man.
It is tricky but you just literally, I'll give you the easiest thing. Figure out why you're drinking. And frickin' address that issue, which is usually some sort of trauma, insecurity, less than, limiting belief.
Well, it's the same thing with, eating junk food, to be honest, is if you can stop yourself long enough to go, because here's what I asked myself with the alcohol. I said, Jimmy, one of two things is true, because you're saying that you shouldn't be drinking, you're not in your best shape because of it, but you still have a drink every day. So one of two things is true. You either have an addiction problem or you're masking something. That's it. It's the only two things.
Tell you that you have a problem.
Right. And so I was like, I had to get real with myself and be like, all right, well, let's dig into it. And I was avoiding feeling some things that I didn't want to, there were some things going on that I, didn't want to look at, and, some relationships that needed some fixing. And ultimately it was when I stopped trying to mask it and really leaned into it that whatever you work through, it goes away. And so I needed to do that. Yeah, that's what it was for me.
We have 2 more questions and we'll get you out of here because I know we're running over. Follow Mr. Jimmy Rex on all social media platforms. He's fabulous. He is worth the price of admission. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you feel compelled to share?
I don't think so. I think one of the, the 2 things that people get in trouble when they hear a podcast like this is they want it too quick. I mean, this took 25 years, it takes a long time. You have to,
tells me every day.
You've got to be patient with it. You do. And it's consistency that matters. You asked me, before the podcast, we were talking about our favorite podcast. And I remember doing specific podcasts early on. And I was like, holy shit, this is going to break the internet. This is going to move the needle. This is where my, podcast is going to blow up forever. And it's just not true. Nothing changes. It's just a slow trickle up. It just little by little it builds. And so the one thing I would tell anybody is if you want to, change your life, expect to just work your ass off for 10 years, take action every day, but the consistency is what matters. I have 580 episodes on my podcast now. I've never gone 7 days without putting one out. Never. In 580 episodes. And it's the consistency over time that builds. Writing a book, you don't write it in a day. Every day you take 30 to 50 minutes or an hour, whatever you can, and you have a lead ass and you sit there and you type shit out until you come up with some ideas. Everything, the gist of the tricky part of life is everything that is bad for you feels good in the moment.
Oof.
But everything that's good for you is really hard in the moment. And so you have to really have that long-term vision and understand that, and the win has to become doing the action, not getting the result you want.
I'm going to throw one more at you. In a 10-year span, I'm old enough now that I've had 3 10-year spans of doing the work. And in a 10-year span, you're going to have 6 years of really good times, 2 amazing times, and 2 god-awful years. And it's those 2 god-awful years that you got to be able to stay consistent and go through. And if you contest those, you'll enjoy the other 8 years.
Well, and it's the people you surround yourself with and your habits that'll pull you out when you're going through them. So you've got to be obsessed with those 2 things. Keep your habits and keep good people around you.
Boom. And there's no coincidence that I just met you, man. I'm grateful that you're in my life now. What is it? The last question. What's it mean to be harder than life?
Life's going to come at you, and I think a lot of people surrender to that, and they just kind of want to they want it to be easier. And I think being harder than life is understanding that, no, you don't want life to be easier. You just need to become the person that can withstand. And by the way, God's never going to give you more than you can handle. Otherwise you're just dead, and then it doesn't matter, you're dead. And so with whatever's coming, if you can in the moment go, okay, I don't like this, but here's the lesson I'm getting, here's the growth I'm receiving, then you, in the moment of the hard thing happening, I think you can start to enjoy it. I think that would make you harder than life.
I was going to say harder than life is doing the work to be one. My brother, I love you. Thank you for giving me this time. Sorry I was over, and I enjoyed every minute of this. Thank you.
No, honored. Thank you.
Please rate and share this podcast. I'm active on all social platforms and love to hear from my Siegel supporters. Each and every episode is sponsored by my company, National Technology Management, the easiest and best IT company to do business with, delivering peace of mind with technology every day, even simplifying cybersecurity. Visit trustntm.com for more info. Until next week, be harder than life.